Abdul Vally recently took the helm as CEO of Coface South Africa. With 20 years of local presence and a new global strategy underway, we speak to him about his journey, his plans, and what's next for the business. Welcome, Abdul. It's great to chat to you.
Thanks, Renette. Good to meet you as well.
Can you maybe just start by briefly sharing your professional background and how you ended up in the trade credit insurance space?
Yeah, that was, what can I say? It's a rather unconventional beginning, right? So I started studying, I did a national diploma in cost and management accounting. This was in 1993. So
Don't
a
give
long
your
time
age
ago.
away.
Yes, I'm old. So yeah, in 1993, I studied, I did a 3-year diploma in cost and management accounting. And obviously going straight from school into studying, I decided I'm going to take a gap year. So I was running a friend's flea market store and over the weekends, and I thought, okay, I'm going to just chill for the year, just take a break. And then obviously, I ended up resigning from the job. And then I was literally sitting at home, bored and extremely broke. So I decided I needed to find a job. So prior to that, I met someone from the trade credit insurance industry while playing social soccer. So we used to have a social soccer club on a Friday evening. I met him, we got to chatting, and he's like, okay, well, you know what, when you're in the job market next year, I'll give you an application form. So I decided, let me just fill this in. Didn't even know anything about the industry. Just thought, I need a job. That was what was critical. So I completed the application form. I gave it to him. He took it to the business. They called me for an interview. Didn't even know what the job was at the time. Went for the interview and ended up getting the job, which was basically phoning businesses for information. So my job was the guy who would phone companies and say, we from this company, we insure your suppliers, we need your financials or whatever. There's a whole questionnaire that we would ask, and that's how I started, right? And obviously within that business, I spent many. I did different things along the way, and ended up heading up the trade credit division. And I got to a ripe old age of 50 and decided maybe I need a change. I need to do, when you've been doing the same thing for so long, you become so efficient at it, you kind of stop really challenging yourself.
Yeah.
And so then when this opportunity arrived, I thought, well, let me just try my luck, see if it's something that would fit with me. And obviously ended up getting the offer and thought, well, yeah, let me challenge myself. Let me go into a business and make my mark on the industry as well as the business. Yeah.
So you are CEO since?
1 July. So
Okay.
It's literally only a month in the
Brand new.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of questions, but high level quickly. How was your first month?
I must say I've worked extremely hard, not used to working that hard. It's been interesting. It's been fun. I mean, I swear, I walked away from a meeting the one day. I walked like to my car one afternoon, and I said to myself, bloody hell, I'm tired, but I love this.
Yeah.
I love being able to guide people and guide the business in the direction that I have in my mind. You know what I mean? Because I've got a kind of idea in my head where I think this business can be, and to engage with people and literally I didn't even switch my laptop on that day. That specific day, my laptop stayed closed in my bag. It was just engaging with people.
Wow.
And that's what I love about it. Yeah. So that's what kind of so it's been like I said, it's been tough. We've had a few people leave the business. So I've been on the hunt for good talent, which is, I must tell you, quite rare to find in this industry in this market.
It's a challenge in itself.
Yes.
No.
Yes,
And
unfortunately,
and I think a lot of people will nod their heads with you at this stage. It really is a challenge, but that's why we're trying to make things and make things happen with the Insurance Apprentice. It's some of the things that we do to try and help that talent building story. But
yeah, that's a whole separate conversation. But yeah, I've also got some ideas for the future around that, which I think, because and that's the weird space that we play in, right? So it's trade credit insurance. So it's not quite banking, it's not quite insurance. We kind of sit in this middle space
Yes.
where we don't, and because it's so niche, we don't attract a lot of talent automatically. You know,
Yeah.
people don't leave varsity saying, I want to work in trade credit insurance. I guarantee you 99 out of 100 people don't know what it is. So one of the things we've let ourselves down as an industry is we haven't gone out there to market ourselves as an industry and as a potential career path. So that's something that we definitely, and I've got some ideas around how with the competitors, hopefully we can start doing more of that, you know, getting out there into the varsities, getting to let people understand. And, you know, even if they don't come and work in the industry, they might
Just
end up in,
understand it.
and they might end up in a manufacturing business sometime in 5 or 10 years and realize that they've got a risk of their debtors not paying and think, but remember, we met someone on career day at varsity and this is what they do, right? So it's about the long-term plan. It's not about immediate wins. It's about building something for the future.
Yeah.
So yeah. Where was I going? Yeah, so it's been fun. It's been challenging, but I've loved every minute of it.
Abdul, what makes trade credit insurance such a vital part of the South African economy, especially in today's challenging landscape?
So I can tell you this much, and the perfect proof of, you know, they say so the proof of the pudding is in the tasting, right? So the perfect proof of why this industry is critical to South Africa was COVID.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously with the lockdown, unlike a lot of European markets, the governments actually put reinsurance schemes in place for credit insurers. Obviously, there was a reason behind that because, you know, the subprime crisis hit Europe pretty hard, and the trade credit insurers reacted in a very knee-jerk way and literally cut exposure and disrupted the entire market. So the governments, when they went into lockdown, thought ahead and said, let's put something in place so that these guys are safe. They don't do anything negative. We didn't have that. South Africa didn't have it. I mean, in the UAE, for example, they actually had an embargo on putting any businesses in distress into liquidation. You know, to protect the businesses. We didn't have that. So I think it was probably one of those 1 in 100-year events that happened in South Africa, right?
I mean, 1 in 100. I think a lot of people will say, let's take that.
We hope that would. But basically, I think the industry probably played in almost, okay, probably not as much as business interruption claims during the pandemic, but at least 1.5, I would say at least 1.5 to 2 billion rand worth of claims, right? Those businesses that were insured are still around today because trade credit insurers were there to help them out at that point in time. You know, so that for me was the biggest proof that this industry is critical. And then maybe just to give you some sort of idea of what happened subsequently. So then obviously since about August 2020, the economy started opening up. All of a sudden, there was, you know, this incredible commodity price boom. The Ukraine-Russia thing happened, so commodity prices were through the roof. People were making a lot of money. So 2021 and sort of most of the first half of 22 was a great time in this economy. People were making a lot of money. Almost every industry was doing exceptionally well. I think you'd have to be a pretty bad businessman during that time not to have made money. Let's put it that way. And then obviously once the load shedding hit in the end of 2022 and just pretty much so much negativity globally, and so nothing's happened. Nothing's happened in this economy. So unfortunately, businesses who had reserves from the post-pandemic windfall, they've eventually started running out of reserves, right? So for this year, so the Stats SA released numbers last week. For the first 6 months of this year, liquidations and business rescues are up on last year. So since 2021, so it peaked just after COVID, and then it kind of went down to its like low levels, and we're starting to see a gradual increase again. So, you know, unless something radically changes in South Africa and globally, I don't see any early indication that things are going to turn around and be positive, you know. So it's just going to kind of be, you know,
what needs to change, Abdul?
What needs to change? I think we need to get our government to start spending more money on infrastructure, to do it in a more meaningful way. so that it would create jobs. Certain industries are particularly reliant on the government spend, like construction, which then feeds into the steel industry, because about 50% of steel production goes into the construction industry. Once that starts happening, because then, if you've created a job, that person has more money to buy stuff, right? So then he would go and buy a computer, a better phone, more data, food, better food products for him and his family. So, once you create jobs, then you start creating a better economy. GDP starts going up. People start feeling more comfortable about the country, and then foreign direct investment starts going up. So people start investing in this country. I mean, businesses for the last, I think, 8 or 9 years have just been stockpiling cash. Why? Because they've had nowhere to put the money, or rather, no, they've not been confident enough in the stability of this country to put in to do any major expansions or investments. So that's the problem. We need to have that environment where people start feeling confident and start investing. Government needs to show that they can start the ball rolling by doing the critical infrastructure spend that's required. Then we'll start seeing an improvement. Unfortunately, at this point, I think the only things that have been keeping us going, so sort of the pension fund withdrawals late last year helped the retail industry to some extent, and then the two-pot system, and then I think the slowly easing of interest rates has helped. It has let a little bit more money into the economy, but not enough for it to be sustainable.
And there needs to be probably also a much bigger focus on supporting SMEs and making it less difficult for them to trade. I think there's
100%.
big challenges in the SME space.
Yeah, I mean, South Africa is probably, just to start up a business, South Africa is probably one of the more difficult countries to start a business. I mean, I've read articles where, for example, in Rwanda, you can literally start a business, get it registered in 1 day.
Yeah.
In South Africa, it takes forever, right? So
there's
we need
a lot of work
easier.
needs to be done there.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate I have to say this, but also the labor system, the labor laws in South Africa are too restrictive. People are afraid to hire because once you've hired someone, you can't fire them, right? You can't easily fire them. So all of those things. Then I'm not saying we should, just go back to the Wild West kind of days where you can hire and fire people willy-nilly, but you need to be a little bit more aware of these things. I mean, this is, if someone's got money in his bank account and wants to open up a business or wants to invest in a plant, these are the things they're going to consider. So you need to, as government or as a country, we need to make ways for it to be easier, to convince him that it's worth it, right? So, and I agree, I'm passionate about SMEs, and I think SMEs definitely, SMEs are the lifeblood of this country. It's what drives this economy.
You're passionate about SMEs, but I can see you're a very passionate person in general. So, I mean, for someone who didn't know anything about trade credit, you fell into trade credit, and I can really see the passion and the importance for you for people to really understand what trade credit insurance is. So, what excites you most about leading Coface?
I think the opportunity to build something for the future. I think we've got a business that's been around a while. We're part of a big multinational that's present in 80, we've got businesses in 80 countries. So for me, what I'm passionate about is to piggyback off the really good things that the group brings to us. So they've got wonderful systems, wonderful processes, really robust processes, a clear strategy, and then bring some of the South Africanness to it, right? So, so one of the things that I want to do in the medium to long-term future is to develop certain products, particularly around SMEs, because South Africa's got a big SME market. I want to develop something that an SME offering that we can then replicate in other emerging markets. Why must South Africa be trying to be more like Europe or anyone else? What we need to be is be us. Yeah, exactly. So what we need to do is we need to be us, and then we need to create stuff that we can take elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, that's one of the things that I want to do in the short, sort of medium term, is start looking at developing certain things just for this market, which we then can replicate in other emerging markets, in Chile, in Turkey, because we've got businesses in China, in India, in, Indonesia. So that's the plan. The plan is to make the best of being South African, but also taking the best of Europe and
Nice.
adapting for South
I like
Africans.
I like that. And I think we all know that skills is a challenge, but what we do know is that people in South Africa are really innovative and forward thinking and out of the box thinkers. That we have seen more than once. There are some real innovation in this country. So yeah,
The
it
thing
will
is, South
work.
Africa, I think we've become so adept at operating with uncertainty and with difficulty that we have to innovate, right?
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
to think outside of the box because the box doesn't always work.
Yeah, no, for sure. Abdul, you mentioned global. So your Coface Global Power the Core strategy is an
Yes.
important focus for the global business. How will you help drive that locally?
Yeah.
And talk to us about what it is.
So Power the Core is basically to be the best credit management business out there globally, right? So one of the things that we're doing is we're not just focusing on trade credit insurance. So what we're doing is we're taking the trade credit insurance business, which we've been really good at for many years, and creating other revenue streams from it and other offerings into the market. So business information, which is largely around business intelligence, it's about data. We're building that business. We're building third-party collections. So, where, for example, an uninsured person has an overdue account, they don't know what to do. We're starting to offer that service to the market as well. So it's about taking the best of what we do and adapting of trade credit and adapting it beyond trade credit. Because let's be honest, I think this industry is evolving.
Yeah.
And if we don't evolve with it, we're going to get left behind. Right. And that was probably, and I know that one of the questions, so we're kind of getting all mixed up with the questions. So one of the questions was, what drew me to this business, right? And that was one of the things. My personal belief on where this industry is going is exactly what the group believes, and the strategy that the group is formulating over the next 5 to 10 years is what I believe works, and I believe in that future. So because of AI, people at some point are not going to need trade credit insurers or anyone to assist to help them manage their credit, right? Because AI will do a lot of that for them.
Sure.
But AI needs data.
Yeah.
Right? And that's
100%.
the group strategy, because AI is just a program, but if you don't have the actual information to feed into it, it's pointless.
Yes.
The group's focusing on that part of it. It's about focusing on getting information, getting the data. So that's something that unfortunately in South Africa is extremely challenging, particularly with POPIA and so forth. Getting information on companies is more challenging. I've got some ideas on how we're going to do that. So medium term, I also want to build our database for South African businesses, because once we've got scale on that, we can then potentially launch a proper BI business for South Africa. We've got people who provide information, but we don't have people who provide intelligent information. So that's and like I said, that's and then obviously the culture. The culture is important. The group culture. I must be honest, I've been blown away. My first month as CEO, I've had to do like 15 mandatory courses online. All about, and you won't believe, obviously it's all the usual stuff about, corruption, bribery, cyber awareness, but then there was an entire 45-minute training on the environment, on how to reduce your carbon footprint, where I could go online and take a questionnaire and determine what my carbon footprint is as an individual. Sure. Yeah, like I'm saying, that for me was impressive, because while, South African businesses do kind of do it, they haven't really taken it to that level. And that's one of the things that really I find amazing about Coface is the depth of expertise and professionalism in the group is next level.
That's really amazing. With that, Coface is celebrating 220 years in South Africa. How old is the global business?
80 years.
80. So
Yeah.
why did it take so long to come to South Africa? Anyway, Coface is celebrating 20 years in South Africa. What does this milestone mean for the business and its clients?
Yeah, so basically what it means is we've built a foundation, a solid foundation. We spent time understanding the South African market, building relationships, developing local expertise, and establishing the trust within the market. Now we can basically leverage that foundation to build the best credit insurance business in South Africa. We don't want to be the biggest. We want to be the best. And so the way we do that is obviously leveraging some of the global expertise, but then blending it with local and providing something different to the market that the market hasn't had for many years.
Yeah, so I wanted to see what do you define as best, but you've sort of answered that. So my other question is, what do you think you are at this point already ahead of, or makes you a little bit better or more unique than your competitors, without naming them?
One is systems, right? So, for example, in Europe, we're already testing AI for underwriting purposes. And trust me, I've worked with the competitors, so I totally know what the challenges are in the local market. We've got the best systems that are homegrown, that we own as Coface. We've got a clear understanding of who we are, what we stand for, what we want to achieve. And it's something that doesn't kind of change from one year to the next, depending on who, the CEO and how he feels that specific time. This is something that's been, driven from top down for the last at least 7 or 8 years. So that for me is what makes us different. Obviously, service levels. It all boils down to service levels. I mean, it doesn't matter what product. One of the things that I can definitely tell you is Coface South Africa have the best policy wordings in the market. I mean, we've offered stuff in the market that no other insurer offers. But it still boils down to service. And that is what I'm driving. I'm passionate about that. Clients and brokers, because brokers are intermediaries are quite important in this market. They need to receive the best level of service. And the odd thing is a level of service it doesn't mean being a yes man, right? Sometimes you got to make those tough calls. The service is behind how you communicate that decision and how quickly you communicate that decision and in what tone you communicate that decision. So that's what service is about. It's not about just someone asking for a credit limit and quickly issuing the credit limit, even though you know that there's a higher likelihood of default on that specific one. It's about saying no, making those tough calls.
I think Coface is in good hands. I
hope
I'm excited for the business. And talking about that, Abdul, what are your short and long-term priorities for Coface? You've been there a month. I think you've settled in terms of what's your plans, long and short term, for the business. Your passion is there, so you need to
short term. Yeah, short term is basically to settle down the business, to get all the right people, to work hard at getting people to want to work for us, to be engaged in what they do, to slowly empower them to do what they do. So short term is about that. Medium term is obviously looking at other offerings. So looking at building data, a proper business database, offering third-party collections into the market, because that's something that I think is needed. Providing the best possible service to clients. And if we do all of those things, then obviously we'll grow, right? We'll grow without having to try to grow. So, people often want to grow the business and they target top line. No, you target doing things well. And I think one of the things that I think we need to identify as a business is what is our core strength as Coface South Africa, and then leverage that strength, because if you have an offering into the market now, Coface have a very, I wouldn't say, they've got a very robust risk management system and clear targets on the sort of, profile of risk that we need to have in our books. So I can't go into the market and say, I will issue every credit limit, because I'm not allowed to, right?
Yeah.
We've got a very proper system. And that system's designed a way, when you're dealing with a global with presence in almost 200 countries, you kind of have to have very robust ideas and processes. So for me, it's not about that. Yes, client service is something that is just important, but that's not the only thing. Policy wordings, great, but without client service, meaningless.
Yeah.
So it's and I think we can probably compete on price to some extent, because we've got scale, because we've got really good systems and pricing models that have been globally developed. I think we can. So it's about sitting down with the team and identifying exactly what are we the best at.
Yeah.
And make that offering to the market. Obviously backed up by a unique and best of class client experience.
Your message to our audience, who is brokers and the whole insurance and financial services industry, but a lot of brokers and intermediaries.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So I've actually written this down. So yeah. So basically my message is watch this space. We entering an exciting phase of Coface South Africa. We have a strong foundation. We have a clear strategy. We've got a commitment to excellence from myself to begin with. We've positioned to redefine what trade credit insurance can mean for South African businesses. And I'm not just saying that, I firmly believe that. And I think the next chapter is going to be compelling for our clients, our industry, and our economy. We're not just here to provide protection. We're here to power growth and enable confidence in business relationships. That's the mission worth watching.
It was absolutely lovely to have a chat with you. I can
Same
see
here.
that you are a good person, you are a good leader, you are strict, but you're fair. And
Yeah.
I'm watching the Coface space.
Yes, I mean, I wish we could have a follow-up meeting in 2 years and I can show you what differences we've made.
There's no reason we cannot. So let's do that.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Lynette.
Thank you very much for your time.
All
I
right.
really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. You